What if I told you that during the Cold War, the Soviet Union built a helicopter so massive that it was wider than a Boeing 747, a helicopter that weighed over 321,000 pounds and needed 6 crew members just to keep it in the air? And that was not even the strangest one on this list. From a Frankenstein helicopter stitched together from bomber parts to a flying crane that could be heard screaming from 8 miles away, these 10 forgotten giants will make every modern helicopter look like a toy. Let us get started. Number 10. Sikorsky CH-37 Mojave. Let us kick things off with a helicopter that earned not one but 3 unflattering nicknames. The Sikorsky CH-37 Mojave was called the Deuce, the Cross-Eye, and the Cross-Eyed Monster. And honestly, once you see this thing, you will understand why. When the CH-37 was delivered in the mid-1950s, it was the largest helicopter in the entire Western world. It was Sikorsky's very first twin-engine helicopter, and it looked unlike anything that had come before it. The design was radical for the era. 2 massive Pratt & Whitney R2800 double-wasp radial piston engines were mounted in giant outboard pods on either side of the fuselage. Those pods also contained the retractable landing gear. This clever arrangement left the entire fuselage completely free for cargo. And loading that cargo was easy because the nose of the helicopter featured large clamshell doors that swung open, allowing trucks, howitzers, and even jeeps to be driven straight inside. The CH-37 could carry 26 fully equipped Marines or 3 lightweight Jeep-like vehicles called the M422 Mighty Might. Its 5-bladed main rotor had a diameter of 72 feet and was specially designed so the helicopter could continue flying even if one blade was shot off in combat. That is a pretty incredible safety feature for the 1950s. The Marines purchased 60 examples, while the United States Army ordered 94. In November 1956, an HR-2S1, the Marine Corps designation, set 3 world records. It carried an 11,050-pound payload to 12,000 feet, lifted 13,250 pounds to over 7,000 feet, and hit a speed of nearly 163 miles per hour, over a 3-kilometer course. The CH-37 served in Vietnam, where it proved invaluable for recovering downed aircraft from the combat zone. By the time the last Mojave left Vietnam in May 1967, the type had logged over 5,300 combat hours and transported 12.5 million pounds of cargo. It was eventually replaced by the turboshaft-powered CH-54 Tarhe and the CH-47 Chinook. Here's the thing that really makes the CH-37 special. It remains the largest piston-engine helicopter ever built. That is a record it still holds today. Only about 154 were ever produced, and only a handful survive in museums. A true rare giant of the helicopter world. Number 9. Aerospatiale SA Super Frelon. Now let us fly across the Atlantic to France. The Aerospatiale SA Super Frelon, which translates to Super Hornet, was a 3-engine heavy transport helicopter that once held 2 incredible distinctions. It was the most powerful helicopter ever built in Europe, and for a time, it was the fastest helicopter in the entire world. The Super Frelon made its maiden flight on December 7, 1962. Its development was a truly international effort. American helicopter company Sikorsky designed the 6-bladed main rotor and 5-bladed tail rotor. Italian manufacturer Fiat supplied the main transmission design, and the French provided everything else, including 3 Turbomeca Turbo 3C turboshaft engines, each producing 1,500 shaft horsepower on the production models. On July 23, 1963, a modified Super Frelon shattered the FAI absolute helicopter world speed record by reaching 217.7 miles per hour. That was an astonishing number for a helicopter of that era. The pilots were Jean Boulet and Roland Coffinel, and they broke 3 international records in a single flight. The Super Frelon had a maximum takeoff weight of approximately 28,660 pounds. Its fuselage was cleverly redesigned into a boat-like hull, complete with a bow, a planing bottom, and watertight bilge compartments, allowing it to land on water. This made it perfect for naval operations. The French Navy became its biggest operator, using it for anti-submarine warfare, search and rescue, and troop transport. But the Super Frelon also served with China, Israel, Iraq, Libya, and South Africa. In China, the helicopter was manufactured under license by the Harbin Aircraft Industry Group as the Harbin Z8, and a modernized derivative called the Avocopter AC-313 performed its first flight in 2010. Production ended in 1981 due to a lack of new orders. The French Navy finally retired the Super Furlon on April 30th, 2010, after nearly 5 decades of service. Only about 100 were ever built, making it a genuinely rare aircraft. Number 8. Sikorsky CH-54 Tarhe Sky Crane. This helicopter is one of the most unusual-looking aircraft in aviation history. The Sikorsky CH-54 Tarhe was a dedicated aerial crane with no cargo cabin at all. Its fuselage was essentially a cockpit, a spine, a tail boom, and landing gear. Nothing else. Every ounce of the design was optimized for one purpose: lifting incredibly heavy loads externally. The CH-54 got its name from Tarhe, an 18th century chief of the Wyandot Indian tribe whose nickname was the Crane, and this helicopter absolutely lived up to that name. First flown on May 9, 1962, the Tarhe was powered by 2 Pratt & Whitney T-73P700 turboshaft engines, each producing 4,800 shaft horsepower. Its 6-bladed main rotor had a diameter of 72 feet. It could carry an external payload of 20,000 pounds on a single hook, including howitzers, trucks, bulldozers, and even other aircraft. One of the most innovative features for any helicopter of that era was the incorporation of an automatic flight control system. The aft-facing crew member could control the helicopter's pitch, roll, and yaw with 10% control authority, along with an altitude hold function. This allowed for incredible precision when placing loads. On April 20th, 1965, a CH-54E equipped with a people pod lifted 90 people, its crew of 3 and 87 combat-equipped troops, making it the largest number of people to be lifted by a single helicopter at that time. The Tarhe's combat record in Vietnam was legendary. CH-54s routinely repositioned artillery pieces, airlifted bulldozers and patrol boats, and recovered downed aircraft from the jungle. Over 380 aircraft were reportedly recovered by the Sky Crane during the war. Only 105 CH-54s were ever built. The US Army replaced them with the CH-47 Chinook during the 1980s. But the helicopter story did not end there. Erickson Air Crane obtained the manufacturing rights and type certificate in 1992, and the civilian S-64 Sky Crane continues to operate today in firefighting, logging, and heavy construction roles. The CH-54 still holds the helicopter record for highest altitude and level flight at 36,000 feet, set back in 1971. Number 7. Mi-10 Harke. The Soviet Union's answer to the flying crane concept was the Mi-10. NATO gave it the codename Harke, and this helicopter looked absolutely alien. Picture a helicopter sitting on 4 enormously tall, spindly landing gear legs like a gigantic mechanical insect. That was the Mi-10. Development began in 1958, and the first prototype flew on June 15, 1960. The design drew heavily from the Mi-6, using the same dynamic components and Soloviev D25V turboshaft engines, producing 5,500 shaft horsepower each. But instead of carrying cargo inside a cabin, the Mi-10 was designed to straddle large, bulky loads beneath its fuselage, using those towering landing gear legs. The tall-legged version had a maximum takeoff weight of approximately 96,000 pounds and could carry external loads of up to 15,400 kilograms, which is nearly 34,000 pounds. The Mi-10 was 33 meters long and could cruise at around 220 kilometers per hour. A later variant, the Mi-10K, was introduced with shorter landing gear legs and a ventral gondola that housed a second pilot facing rearward to supervise crane operations. 17 Mi-10Ks were produced from 1974 to 1977. The Mi-10 had some real operational challenges though. It was unstable when flying without a load, and the best procedure for takeoff was found to be a rolling takeoff, which often caused nose-wheel shimmy. In bad weather, external loads could accumulate ice, which was dangerous enough to drag the helicopter out of the sky. Vibration levels were also unpleasantly high. In total, about 55 Mi-10 series helicopters were built, including both the tall-legged and short-legged variants. Most served with Aeroflot rather than the military. A number of the original Mi-10s were converted into Mi-10PP airborne electronic countermeasures platforms. The short-legged Mi-10K remained in civilian service until at least 2014. Number 6. Mi-6 Hook. Now we are getting into the true heavyweights. The Mi-6, given the NATO codename Hook, was an absolute colossus. When it first flew on June 5, 1957, it was the largest production helicopter in the world by a significant margin. It was also the fastest helicopter in the world and the first Soviet turboshaft-powered production helicopter. And here's a stat that will blow your mind. The Mi-6 was longer overall than a C-130 Hercules transport aircraft. The design work began in 1952 to meet a joint Soviet Air Force and Aeroflot requirement for a heavy-lift helicopter. Engineer Mikhail Mil chose a single rotor configuration despite other experts recommending twin rotors for a helicopter this size. The Mi-6 was powered by two Soloviev D25V turboshaft engines producing 5,500 shaft horsepower each. Its five-bladed main rotor had a diameter of 35 meters, which is nearly 115 feet. The Mi-6 could carry up to 12,000 kilograms of internal payload, seat up to 70 troops, and in extreme circumstances, its cargo cabin could hold up to 150 people. The ambulance version could carry 41 stretchers. It had a maximum takeoff weight of 42,500 kilograms and a maximum speed of 300 kilometers per hour. A little-known passenger variant, the Mi-6P, was developed in the mid-1960s for Aeroflot, featuring airline-type seating for up to 80 passengers. Only one demonstrator was ever built, and it was shown at the 1967 Paris Air Show. It never entered production. The Mi-6 set 16 world records during its operational life. By 1990, Aeroflot Mi-6s alone had carried 15 million tons of cargo and 12 million passengers. Over 925 Mi-6 helicopters were built between 1959 and 1981, exported to countries including Algeria, Bulgaria, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iraq, Libya, Peru, Syria, and Vietnam. The Mi-6 was finally retired from Russian service in October 2002 after a fatal crash in the Taimyr Peninsula led the Interstate Aviation Committee to withdraw its type certificate. It was also discovered that the wooden tail rotor blades had reached the end of their service life. A true Cold War legend. Number 5. Yakovlev Yak-24 Horse. Before the Mi-6 dominated the skies, there was another Soviet giant that briefly held the title of the largest helicopter in the world. The Yakovlev Yak-24, given the NATO codename Horse, was a massive tandem rotor transport helicopter that looked like it had been stretched on a medieval rack. The Yak-24 made its first flight on July 3, 1952, and it was publicly revealed during a dramatic flypast over Moscow's Tushino airfield in 1955 that stunned Western observers. Nobody expected the Soviets to produce a helicopter this large, this early. The design used two four-bladed rotors mounted at the front and rear of a long, slab-sided fuselage, similar in concept to the American Piasecki H-21. Two Shvetsov Ash-82V radial piston engines, each producing around 1,700 horsepower, powered the rotors through a synchronizing shaft that ran the length of the fuselage. That shaft was a constant source of problems, suffering from severe vibration issues that plagued the program from the very beginning. The Yak-24 could carry up to 30 troops or 3,000 kilograms of internal cargo. Its cabin was large enough to fit a Gaze-69 Jeep or a 76mm anti-tank gun. In December 1955, a Yak-24 set 4 world records in a single flight, including lifting a payload of 2,000 kilograms to an altitude of 5,082 meters. For a brief period, it was the undisputed heavyweight champion of the helicopter world. But the problems were relentless. Vibration from the synchronizing shaft caused structural fatigue and made life miserable for crew and passengers. Ground resonance issues led to at least one dramatic incident where a prototype literally shook itself apart on the ground. Reliability was so poor that the Soviet Air Force quickly lost confidence in the type. Only around 40 Yak-24s were built before production ended in 1958. Most served with the Soviet Air Force in transport and medevac roles, though Aeroflot briefly experimented with a passenger variant that seated 30 people. The type was withdrawn from service by the early 1960s, completely overshadowed by the far more capable Mi-6. The Yak-24 is almost entirely forgotten today. It was the wrong helicopter at the wrong time, built by a design bureau far more famous for its fighter jets than its rotorcraft. But for a few short years in the mid-1950s, it was the biggest helicopter on the planet, and that is a distinction worth remembering. Number 4. Fairey Rotodyne. This next entry is not just a forgotten giant, it is one of the greatest tragedies in aviation history. The Fairey Rotodyne was a British compound helicopter designed in the 1950s to revolutionize short-haul air travel. It could take off and land vertically like a helicopter, then fly like a turboprop airliner at speeds that no pure helicopter could match. It worked beautifully. And then it was killed. The Rotodyne made its first flight on November 6, 1957. It was a massive machine capable of carrying 40 to 48 passengers in an airline-style cabin. It was powered by 2 Napier-Elan turboprop engines mounted on stub wings that provided thrust for forward flight. For vertical takeoff and landing, compressed air was fed through the rotor blades to tip jets at their ends, spinning the 4-bladed rotor without needing a conventional tail rotor for torque compensation. Once airborne and transitioning to forward flight, the tip jets were shut off and the rotor auto-rotated, functioning like a giant wing while the turboprops provided all the thrust. This made the Rotodyne extraordinarily efficient in cruise. On January 5, 1959, the Rotodyne set a world speed record for convertiplanes by reaching 190.9 miles per hour over a 100-kilometer closed circuit. For a vertical takeoff aircraft in 1959, that was sensational. The Rotodyne had a maximum takeoff weight of approximately 33,000 pounds and could cruise at around 185 miles per hour with a range of roughly 450 miles. The plan was to operate it from city center heliports, connecting places like central London to central Paris in under an hour, door to door. Airlines were genuinely interested. British European Airways placed a letter of intent, and both the Royal Air Force and the United States military expressed interest in military transport versions. But the tip jets had one devastating flaw: they were unbelievably loud. The noise during takeoff and landing was so extreme that it made city center operations nearly impossible under the noise regulations of the time. Engineers were working on noise suppression solutions and making real progress, but the political and financial support evaporated before the problems could be fully solved. The British government withdrew funding in February 1962. Fairey Aviation had already been absorbed into Westland Helicopters, and Westland had no interest in continuing the project. The single flying prototype was scrapped. All the jigs, tooling, and documentation were destroyed. A production-ready aircraft that could have changed the entire trajectory of vertical lift aviation was simply thrown away. Only one Rotodyne was ever built. Nothing else like it has ever flown since. Modern tilt-rotor aircraft like the V-22 Osprey attempt to solve the same problem the Rotodyne solved over 60 years ago, but none of them carry 48 passengers in airline comfort at those speeds. Aviation historians widely regard the cancellation of the Rotodyne as one of the most short-sighted decisions in British aerospace history. It was a giant that was ahead of its time, and the world was not ready for it. Number 3. Sikorsky CH-53E Super Stallion. The CH-53E Super Stallion is the largest and heaviest helicopter in the entire United States military inventory. And it has a nickname that tells you everything you need to know about its power: the Hurricane Maker, earned because of the absolutely ferocious downwash its rotors generate. The CH-53E was developed from the earlier CH-53C Stallion, mainly by adding a third engine, adding a 7th blade to the main rotor, and canting the tail rotor 20 degrees. The first prototype flew on March 1st, 1974. 3 General Electric T-64 GE416 416A turboshaft engines power the Super Stallion, each producing 4,380 shaft horsepower. Its 7-bladed main rotor has a diameter of 79 feet. The helicopter is about 99 feet long and has a maximum takeoff weight of 73,500 pounds. The Super Stallion can carry 30,000 pounds of cargo internally, or 32,000 pounds on its external hook. It is the only helicopter in the American inventory that can lift a 155mm howitzer, complete with its crew and ammunition. It can even lift an aircraft as heavy as itself. Approximately 170 CH-53E Super Stallions and 50 MH-53E Sea Dragon mine countermeasures variants were built. they remain the largest helicopters in military service anywhere in the Western world. The CH-53E has served in virtually every American military operation since the 1980s, from the Gulf War and Somalia to Afghanistan and Iraq. One of the more remarkable facts about the Super Stallion is that its tail rotor alone has about the same diameter and thrust output as the entire four-bladed main rotor of the MD-500 light helicopter. That gives you a sense of just how much power is being generated to keep this beast in the air and under control. The next generation, the CH-53K King Stallion, is now being developed with new engines, composite material rotor blades, and a wider cabin. But the Super Stallion's 4 decades of service have cemented its place as one of the most important heavy-lift helicopters ever built. Number 2, Mi-26 Halo. The Mi-26, NATO codename Halo, is the largest and most powerful helicopter to have ever gone into serial production. Let that sink in. Not a prototype, not an experiment, a full production aircraft built in the hundreds and still in active service today. The Mi-26 made its first flight on December 14, 1977, and the first production aircraft was rolled out on October 4, 1980. Development was completed in 1983, and by 1985, the Mi-26 was in both Soviet military and commercial service. The numbers on this helicopter are staggering. It has a maximum takeoff weight of 56,000 kilograms, which is roughly 123,500 pounds. It can carry 20 tons of cargo internally, which is 44,000 pounds. It can seat up to 82 passengers. Its cargo hold is larger inside than a C-130 Hercules. It is powered by 2 Progress D136 turboshaft engines producing 11,400 horsepower each, and it features a single 8-bladed main rotor with a diameter of 32 meters, the largest ever fitted to a production helicopter. The Mi-26 still holds the world record for greatest mass lifted by a helicopter to 2,000 meters altitude, having lifted 56,768 kilograms, roughly 125,000 pounds, during a record flight in 1982. The operational history of the Mi-26 is extraordinary. In 1986, Mi-26 helicopters were used during the Chernobyl disaster to measure radiation levels and drop insulating material onto the damaged reactor. In 1999, an Mi-26 transported a 23-ton block of frozen soil containing a preserved 23,000-year-old woolly mammoth from the Siberian tundra. In 2002, a civilian Mi-26 was leased for $300,000 to recover a downed U.S. Army Chinook helicopter from a mountain in Afghanistan after no American helicopter had the payload capacity to do the job at that altitude. Approximately 300 Mi-26 helicopters have been built, and roughly 276 are still in service worldwide. They have been exported to countries including India, China, Peru, Mexico, and several former Soviet republics. The Indian Air Force operated the Mi-26 for years, though they eventually retired their fleet due to high overhaul costs and replaced them with American CH-47 Chinooks. The Mi-26 has also been used during the 2008 Wenchuan earthquake in China, bringing heavy earth-moving equipment to quake lakes that were inaccessible by road. During the 2022 Russo-Ukrainian conflict, Russian Mi-26s were used to transfer reinforcements to frontline positions. Number 1, Mil-V12 Homer. And now, the undisputed king of them all, the Mil-V12, sometimes referred to as the Mi-12, is the largest helicopter ever built by any country, ever. It is recognized by Guinness World Records as the biggest helicopter in history. And when you see its specifications, you will understand why this helicopter is in a league entirely of its own. The V-12 first flew on July 10, 1968, during the height of the Cold War. It was designed to transport intercontinental ballistic missiles to remote launch sites across the vast Soviet Union, in locations where ground transport was simply not feasible. Think about that for a moment. This helicopter was built to carry nuclear missiles. The V-12 featured an unusual transverse rotor layout. Instead of 1 or 2 rotors on top of a single fuselage, it had 2 massive 5-bladed rotors mounted at the tips of a pair of inversely tapered wings. Each rotor had a diameter of 35 meters, which is approximately 115 feet. The distance from the edge of one rotor disc to the other was an astonishing 67 meters, which means this helicopter was wider across than the wingspan of a Boeing 747. 4 Soloviev D25VF turboshaft engines powered the V-12, positioned in pairs on outboard nacelles. Each engine generated approximately 6,410 horsepower for a total of over 25,600 horsepower. The helicopter had a maximum takeoff weight of 105,000 kilograms, which is approximately 231,000 pounds, or about 116 tons. Its cargo bay was nearly 100 feet across, and if a passenger version had been built, it could have carried 196 passengers, the same number as a modern Airbus A321neo in a 2-class configuration. 6 crew members were required to operate this monster. The V-12 was bigger than a Boeing 727 jetliner. In 1969, the V-12 set a payload record by carrying over 40 tons to an altitude of more than 2,250 meters. That record for a helicopter of its type has never been beaten. The engine, transmission, and rotor systems were derived from those of the Mi-6, and the side-by-side rotor arrangement allowed these proven systems to be used with minimal modifications. But despite its astonishing capabilities, the V-12 program was considered a failure. By the time the helicopter was ready for production, Soviet military strategy had shifted. Improvements in ballistic missile technology meant that ICBMs no longer needed to be transported by helicopter to remote launch sites. The military requirements could now be met by more conventional designs. Only 2 V-12 prototypes were ever built. The project was canceled, and work began on what would become the Mi-26 Halo, which took the lessons learned from the V-12 and packaged them into a more practical, producible design. Today, one of the 2 V-12 prototypes survives at the Central Air Force Museum in Monino, near Moscow, Russia. It remains the largest helicopter ever to leave the ground, and given the extreme cost and engineering challenges involved, it is very likely that its record will never be broken. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss another video. Drop a comment below telling me which helicopter blew your mind the most. Was it the Frankenstein XH-17 with its tip-jet rotors you could hear from 8 miles away? Or the mighty V-12 that could have carried 196 passengers? Or maybe it was the fact that the United States scrapped the only XCH-62 prototype ever built just to free up storage space. That one still hurts. These helicopters represent an era of aviation where engineers were not afraid to think impossibly big. Some succeeded brilliantly, some failed spectacularly, but every single one of them pushed the boundaries of what we believed rotary wing flight could achieve. And that makes them worth remembering. Until next time, keep looking up.